Reading and writing fill in the blanks method. Let's study the step-by-step method to use for this question type. A quick look at the question screen. You'll see a number of blanks in a text up to 300 words. For each blank, when you click on it, you will get a drop-down of options and you have to select the suitable from the drop-down. The option that makes most sense based on logic, based on grammar and the overall context, that is what you have to select. Now the method, you start with the first blank. You have to consider all the options in the drop down. So you click on the drop down, you see the options, and out of them, you have to shortlist based on meaning, grammar, and collocation. After that, consider the overall context and the words before and after the blank. So let's say you were writing this, which word is most suitable, you have to also consider that. And in the end, review your selections, submit, and go to the next question. Now, in this case, the choices for each blank, they are separate from the other blanks. So you get those options and they are for a particular blank only. An easy way, as we said, consider all options. So one by one, try to read the sentence with each blank, with each option, one by one. And then based upon that, you can figure out which is logical, which makes correct sense, and which is correct also based on grammar. So all those things you have to use, and don't leave any blank unanswered. You must answer everything. Now, this is an example for you. You may pause the video and then try to attempt it. After a couple of seconds, we'll look at the answer. Let's look at the answers. The ones in green, those were the correct options, and I hope you've got them correct. Now, let's look at this step by step. So you start with the first blank, and was the sentence, initial experiences with steam engines despite dash blank were unpleasant. And as you can see, if you just glance quickly over the text, so this is something about railways, steam engines, etc. And this sentence, initial experiences with steam engines despite dash were unpleasant. What you have to do, consider all options in the drop down. So despite ventilator were unpleasant, despite ventilated were unpleasant, despite ventilation were unpleasant, despite venting were unpleasant. So now when you look at them, you have to shortlist, you have to see the grammar, you have to see collocation, and you have to see the meaning. A good way is to put each one. So if the first one, initial experiences with steam engines, despite ventilator were unpleasant. So grammatically it seems it's correct, but with despite it doesn't make any sense, despite ventilator. And when you come to the third option, despite ventilation. So initial experiences with steam engines despite ventilation were unpleasant. So despite ventilation, as we know, is letting in air. And they're talking about designing railways or when they had the steam engines. So they're saying despite the provision of letting the air come in and go out, that is ventilation, the experience was unpleasant. So this makes good sense. Venting, ventilated, of course, is also incorrect grammatically. Despite venting, that has a different meaning. That is just means letting out. So only ventilation, despite ventilation. And you might have come across similar use for ventilation, that the lack of ventilation made the room very unpleasant. It was difficult to breathe because there was no ventilation in the room. So you would have seen sentences and examples like that. And that's why ventilation is correct here. And as we have done, you must always consider the overall context and words before and after the blank. And that's why when you're substituting, you read the whole sentence. In the end, just review your selections, quickly glance, and if you are happy with it, submit and go to the next question. So the most important part here is considering all the options one by one. Your logic, what you have understood from your reading in the past, your familiarity with sentence structures and their usage of the words in English, that is what's going to help you here.